All right, this week's Healthy Debate is brought to you by DraftKings NFL Playoffs. We're talking about NFL playoffs. You bet we are. Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Scoring touchdowns is key to winning in the NFL playoffs, and the key to you scoring big is by betting on them at DraftKings, the number one place to bet touchdowns. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple like a player to score 6. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. Here's another reason to watch your favorite players crush it in the playoffs. New customers bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Score big during the NFL playoffs with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code RICO. That's code RICO for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. All right, this week's episode, all things college football playoff with Big Ev, one of the guys who still has a team in the playoffs. So I guess we'll go big picture too. A lot of talk of people being like, no expansion, shouldn't have had expansion, some blowouts, some big leads in these games. Expansion was the right call.
I mean, you have, if you think about it, probably 3 of the 4 teams in the semifinal. One, I guess maybe Notre Dame and Penn State might have made it in the normal playoff. They say at least Ohio State definitely wouldn't have been a normal playoff. And Texas probably wouldn't have been either after losing to Georgia twice.
Yeah.
They would have been like a
on
weird discussion. It would have been a very interesting discussion between those teams. But I think this season clearly showed, like, even with the blowouts and all that, there's a reason they did it. Like, there's been teams for years that didn't make the top 4 that like had what it takes to win it all. And they'll say this year it's about devaluing the regular season. I think it added more value to the regular season. And I think it just shows, like, if you, like, in this run, like, say Ohio State, they go and they win it all. You can say, oh, they lost 2 games like that. If they lost to Michigan like that, like, they would have never made the playoff. But, I mean, if you go beat, like, Tennessee, Oregon, Texas, and Penn State or Notre Dame back to back to back to back, you deserve to be national champions. And you can say that about any team in the playoff. Like, you win those 4 games in a row, you earned it.
Yeah, I think that was the bigger thing that was very frustrating in college football. Like, even going back to this is, again, a sport that didn't have a champion, a true champion. Mm-hmm. They never thought, hey, you know what? These teams should play until 1998. Or whatever the BCS was created. Yeah. And then even that was a computer system that was like a little bizarre as well. It wasn't always perfect. Mm-hmm. You weren't getting a committee, whatever. So like to actually have what you look for, the same thing they say about college basketball, like we just want a chance. Team like Butler, team like George Mason. We just want a chance to be in the dance and then make a run. That's what college football has now provided. Like these teams, you just have to be in the dance and you can go prove it and win. The regular season itself, where would you rate the regular season? Because there were some crazy games and some upsets, but I feel like there was no true power of a team. It was a little bit of an underwhelming regular season, would you say?
I would disagree. I think it was one of the better regular seasons like ever. Because you think about all these games that became like huge games that wouldn't have mattered at all previously. Like, I think it was one of the best regular seasons we ever had. And just because I think having the no like true like just dominant team, like every team kind of chinks in their armor a little bit. Like, I think that made for a better regular season. Like, listen, you can sit here and say, like, oh, like, for example, I remember it was big when, like, Bama and Tennessee played. Like, it was a huge game. Just an example of, like, one. Where it felt like, oh, like, losers out of this game. And it was kind of true, even though it weirdly, I guess it wasn't, because Bama loses again. And if they don't lose that Oklahoma game, they probably do get in. But there was just so many games like that meant so much, even, like, Georgia, Ole Miss. Like, Georgia, Texas. Like, where there's so many in the regular season. There were so many massive games like that I think the overall strength of the regular season was much stronger, and week to week, there were more games that mattered more than previous years, where it felt like there was like just like a few teams battling for that one, like to win it all, where this year there really felt like there was a lot of teams at the seat of the table. Now you can sit here and say like, oh, like a SMU or like Indiana or some of these teams never really had a shot, but I think them all like just having kind of the opportunity and like, even like Arizona State, for example, like they win the conference, like they give Texas everything they can handle.
Everybody was writing them off.
They should have won.
Yep.
Like I don't know. I think the regular season as a whole was better, but I think you're seeing the gap close in like the Power 4, like from the top to the bottom, but the gap's probably getting bigger, like P5 to like G5. That's where I see like the biggest differences.
Yeah.
But I thought it was honestly a great regular season. Because I think you had so much, you did have
big games. Agreed.
Like you came into the playoff being like, I don't like when you got that first bracket, you truly were like, I don't know who's gonna win.
Yeah.
And I bet a lot of teams I bet the 2 most popular picked teams would have been Oregon and Georgia. They're both at home.
That's what I had as a final.
They're both gone.
Exactly.
So it's like I think the season had more parity than it's probably ever had. which I think is great for the sport.
Yeah, when it first came out, we were talking about the seeding, and I was very much for if you win your conference, you should be in the top 4. I've now said this a million times. Hand up, that's dead wrong.
Yeah.
They got to reseed this.
It sounded good in theory.
It did sound
sounded
good.
When you said it out loud, you're like, that sounds great. You win your conference, especially if you win the Big 12 or ACC, you deserve it. And then now I think this year you've seen the gap between the Big 10, SEC, and then like ACC and Big 12 has gotten so big. Where like you playing a conference schedule in the ACC, it's nothing compared to like a week in, week out Big 10 schedule.
Yeah, and you saw that with some teams
who
rose to the top of the ACC. Like Syracuse, a nice story, top of the ACC, good season. I don't think they're a great team. Pitt had a little bit of a run, a lot of conference wins. They were in the mix. Like none of these teams are standout in the ACC.
Well, even like an SMU where like it's not to keep like disrespecting them or whoever, but like they played no one.
Right.
Literally no one.
Especially now with the unbalanced schedule, you can avoid
well, that's what I'm saying.
a lot of these teams as well.
You get an easy schedule and easy conference. Like you get an Indiana draw. They get a 1 in a million where they literally played literally every bottom half team in the Big 10. But that's still like maybe was, and just like they had to play Ohio State. Like that still might have been tougher than what even like SMU had to do. Like they literally their toughest games were they played Louisville and Duke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they didn't really play like until the conference championship. Which even they played a Clemson team who's like whatever, like decent, but not great. Not one of these Clemson teams of the last like 10 years or so. But yeah, when I look at it as a whole, like I do think just the overall, like the broadening of it was good, but just they got to figure out we've seen it and it'll change year to year, but the difference in conference schedules is something that I don't know how they fix that, but it's just the gap is so big. Like I said, the Big 10 and the SEC and these other conferences, it's just not even close.
It's a different ball game.
It's not even close.
It's a different ball game. You're an Ohio State fan, so we'll dive into Ohio State. I think Ryan Day is in one of the most compelling stories in sports. You know what I mean? Like they had this guy dead at the stake.
I did.
Yeah, dead at the stake.
Calling for his head.
Right. But the thing I said to you, I'm like, it's weird, and we're gonna see how they get off the mat. But there still is a path to the championship game.
Oh, there's still a path. They're like resounding favorites.
Well, this was 2 weeks ago. In fairness, I was saying.
3 weeks ago there was a path.
You had to look at it. Hey, there's a path here.
It was much harder to see like 3 weeks ago.
Of course, yeah. So, but it's crazy to see. So you like, where are you at in terms of keeping him?
Oh no! Listen, now
he's in, right?
It's not even a thought. Like he's going to stay, whether people agree with it. You can't have performances like that and just get rid of him now. That Michigan game, it hurt me. It hurt me to places I can't even like. It's hard to even put into words. I was calling for his head, and I'm not like. It's funny because people try to say I'm like backtracking now. No, material change, brother.
Yeah.
When you go out and beat the hell out of Tennessee and Oregon, guess what? I'm back, Ryan Day. We're back. But when you embarrass yourself against Michigan, I'm like, fuck you.
Right.
Because like it's just that it's hard to fathom that loss like with this team, and you see like what they can look like. I truly have put that like I think the Ohio State fans, like I'm talking about because we're on the show right now, but I think people that are like really still harping on that, I'm like, because even my dad's like during the Oregon game, he's like, how do we lose to Michigan? I'm like, stop
let it go. Yeah, it's
who gives a fuck?
Right. If you start to focus on
when they're up 34-0 in Oregon, I'm like, I don't even give a shit anymore.
Right.
When they beat the hell out of Tennessee, I was like, I'm over it. Like, over it. I mean, now they're 6-point favorites against Texas. If they win, they will be favorites over whoever it is. Penn State or Notre Dame. They will, if they beat Texas, they'll be favorites. I feel like they're going to win a national title. Like it almost as long as they play like that, and like they did it 2 games in a row. That first half against Oregon, like that was you saw the full potential of this football team for the first time. I guess you could say second. You saw it against Tennessee, but like these 2 playoff games, you saw like the juggernaut that like Urban Meyer before the season's like, this is the best college football roster like I've ever seen. Like you saw that. You saw it like in real time. You're like, oh my God, like this. Because that Oregon team, I mean, they were the only team that showed no real flaws. Were like unscathed throughout the year. And they were down 34-0 in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Like it was just get the ball, score, take it back, score, take it back, score again. Like I mean, they were beating the hell out of them defensively, flying around. Gabriel, the amount of pressure they were getting on Gabriel was crazy. I mean, Jeremiah Smith, I want to say this while we're just talking about Ohio State. I've said this to you a little bit. I'm talking about necessarily off this a bunch. I still don't think people understand like how good Jeremiah Smith is. I think like me and you are, God willing, are going to be old in 20 years. We're going to be sitting back and being like, you remember him in college? Because we're going to like putting a gold jacket on him. Like I'm like this, and not even just a gold jacket. This is how like much hype I'm going to give him. Like,
you think it's just a little unfair that Ohio State has had such good wide receiver rooms in the past? You know what I mean? So like he gets lumped in, or it's like, oh yeah,
but
like,
he shouldn't be lumped in,
right?
Because truly, he is so much better than all of them. It's crazy to say that. I know it sounds crazy if you haven't watched him like a ton. Garrett Wilson, Olave, Terry McLaurin, Marv, all these guys like JSN. He's so much better, and as a true freshman, I've never seen anything like him. Like this guy is legitimately a like Randy Moss, like Julio Jones, like Megatron type, like one of one alien talent.
And he still can't go to the league for 2 years.
He would dominate the NFL, I really think, like tomorrow. Because it's not that he's young. He's 6'3", 215. Like he's a grown-ass man.
Yep.
He's a grown-ass, the most grown-ass 19-year-old I've ever seen. He's an absolute freak of nature. He's something different. Like he makes like the Garrett Wilsons and the JSNs and the Marvin Harrisons look like just guys. Like he's that special. He's truly like a one-of-one elite, like no-brainer. Like I truly believe this in my heart and my mind. Will go down as one of the greatest football players of all time. I truly I'm putting
big words,
like huge words, and people be like, "Oh, you're a Ohio State fan," blah blah blah. Watch this kid day in day out. Just like see the shit that he does. I've never seen anything like it at his age. The only thing I saw someone say this, like Adrian Peterson is a true freshman.
Yeah,
that's like the comparison I make for like receiver, like just that good, that young, like physically
that early,
like that good and that physically gifted and physically like advanced as such a young kid.
Getting back to your point of like, yeah, I can't believe we lost this team at Michigan. I do think, and again, going back to college basketball, like I think the thing that they did, expanding this playoff as well, is it's a long season. It's hard. Back in the day, you had to go like 12-0, or you had to go 11-1. You can have a loss. Like we've seen teams just have bad losses to teams. You know what I mean? Like, so I do think expanding this, everyone's going to have like a bad loss, and you could still be, that doesn't change the fact that you're in the top 12. You know what I mean? Like that's where it is. So yeah, it was crazy they lost to Michigan, but expanding it was the right choice of that everyone will have a bad loss. It's hard to go 12-0, 13-0. It's very hard.
And we still, unless like we've had bloods, but like Arizona State was a classic. Like Arizona State Texas, that's like an all-time call. Like you'll remember that forever. Like that was like all-timer. And then I know the game didn't be, but Georgia Notre Dame was still like a very competitive game.
Georgia just needed to get one punch in. It was ugly.
That's what Georgia just could never land that blow they needed to just make it like you really even win the game. And like I mean, really, that end of the half changed everything.
Yep.
That like them going the quick 3 and out to Notre Dame getting the points to then the strip sack touchdown like that like Notre Dame, and then they returned the kickoff. They scored 17 points in 55 seconds.
Jesus Christ!
Like the game that totally flipped on its head. And the Parker Jones thing, obviously. But
yeah, it's crazy. All right, let's get into the games. We'll open with Ohio State. 6-point favorite on DraftKings against Texas. It seems it's a scream. You know, it's weird. It's like Ohio State laying 6. Like that's got to tell you something.
Yeah,
you know?
I think so. I mean, they're getting the respect they deserve. Like from the way they've looked, you're almost like you can't give them you can't give them a 2-point spread even against Oregon. Like
you couldn't put this inside 3.
No,
you need to make people doubt themselves.
They look so good in these 2 games. Like you have to base some of that off that. And I mean, Texas is good, but I mean, you just saw they went down to the wire with an ASU team. And really, ASU left a lot of points on the board. Like they
a lot of red zone trips that they left
won that
uncounted,
game, especially early on. This Ohio State's defense is so good, and they have so many weapons on offense. Like the way their offensive line has like adapted without McLaughlin, Simmons, like Donovan Jackson's played great. We put in some young guys at guard, like Montgomery. Some of these guys, like they played really well. Hintzman, being full-time center, has played well. If they just call plays like they have, they will dominate everyone. If their defense like flies around like they have been, playing with a fucking chip on their shoulder, with all the talent they have, Downs is unreal. Simon, Sawyer, and JT have been unreal. If they just play like that, which they played literally their defense at least has played all year like that, besides the first Oregon game. Defense has been the most consistent thing on this football team. But if Chip Kelly's going to call plays like he has, and if Will Howard's going to throw it like he has.
Yeah, he's great, man. I love that kid.
If Will Howard's going to throw it like that, like that Ibuka throw was insane. Some of the throws he made in the Tennessee game, incredible. if he throws the ball like that, no one can keep us within like 10 points at this team.
What is your biggest?
It's just whether they can do that.
What is your biggest concern with Texas? A matchup thing. Yours goes ballistic. Like you're worried you cause your own problem of a fumble, or you able not to
Yeah,
take
it's us. It's truly
okay.
So cliche. Ohio State can only beat themselves. Like I don't think a team can if Ohio State plays good ball, they can't lose. Like if they play a good football game, they will not lose. It's just whether if they they can do it. We've seen it. Like they can make mistakes. They can Will Howard can have a couple goofs. Blutman, we've coined him as Will Howard goofs. He has a couple goofs, but in the playoffs he hasn't.
Right.
Like if he plays like that, but they truly are playing against. I think that Michigan game to this transition of these playoff games shows more than anyone they're playing themselves when they play. As long as they don't beat themselves, they'll beat everyone. And if they play like an A game, they'll beat everyone by 2 touchdowns plus.
I want to check it and make sure it's accurate. As of time of recording, which is a little early, Notre Dame up to 2.5 on State Penn. It's forever it was like Franklin can't win the big one. Franklin can't win the big one. He's won 2 playoff games.
Yep.
Right? 2 playoff games.
Yep.
Against Boise
and SMU.
Both
so double-digit favorites in both.
Has Franklin won a big one yet? Would be the thing I would ask you.
And
again, I'm biased.
He hasn't, but I also think this year, even when you look at the way things have shaken out, I really believe that the 3 best teams in the country probably were Oregon, Ohio State, and Penn State. We'll see. Maybe Texas, maybe Notre Dame has something to say about that. Notre Dame especially, because I really do think it'll be a good game. I think Penn State Notre Dame is the classic matchup of Penn State. If they play, I think they are better on paper. I think they are more talented. They have more offensive weapons. Defense is really good. More dynamic quarterback, better arm, everything. But they can make the mistakes. And the thing that Notre Dame does better than anyone is they play clean football. They capitalize on your mistakes. They play good defense.
We saw them make
good special teams.
That's a different game if they only kick a field goal against Georgia. On the strip sack, you know what I mean? It's still in striking distance.
They have an elite championship defense, 100%. Their offense, I think what Leonard does best, he does this year, he has not made mistakes. They protect the football, they have a good offensive line, and they just they wait for you to fuck up and they pounce. And Penn State's very prone to that. So I think I'm picking Penn State to win. I'll take the 2.5 points just because I think it's going to be really close. But the thing that worries me about Penn State is them making that blunder that Notre Dame, I don't think will make. At least they have consistently not made that blunder.
So that sets up a rematch in a championship that you think is Ohio State, State Penn.
Yeah, that's what I'm predicting. That's what I'm predicting.
Okay, and then from there, it's some say it's hard to beat a team 3 times. I guess you could hard to say to beat a team in a rematch or whatever. But you would have where would your concern meter be in that championship game?
I'd be crazy confident.
Really?
How can I?
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Even when we played them earlier this year, we won by 7.
Held them to 10 points, right? They had 10 points?
20-13 was the final.
Okay, 13 points.
But we beat them by 7, in State College, threw a pick 6 to start the game. Will Howard fumbled going across the goal line. That was a touchback. We should have won. If you watch the game, we won by 7, had a goal line stand at the end. And then we just had a fuck you. We just ran the ball to for drive, 60 yards, we closed the game out. We're 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns better than that team if we play good. And I just trust our guys. If we play, I'd rather play Penn State, I think, than Notre Dame in the championship. Even though I'm picking Penn State to win, I don't know if that makes sense, but I could see Ohio State, I think will feel really confident beating Penn State. I think they feel confident beating Notre Dame too. But I think Notre Dame has more of what it takes to just let Ohio State maybe have a couple fuck ups, play good defense, keep it low scoring, close. Where Penn State, I feel they just would we'd force them into those mistakes that we'd win the game. If we play Penn State, I'd feel really good about it.
We'll end on
Notre Dame would be scarier for me. I also hate Notre Dame.
Yeah,
and I've talked so much shit about them all year, so it would be the perfect just fuck you to my life
to win.
Of we'll lose to Michigan and then have this run and then lose Notre Dame in a championship game where everyone would leave that game being Ohio State's so much better.
Yeah.
But they fucked it up.
We'll end on this 2 questions. The first one, I don't want to insult you because you have won a national championship and you've played in national championship games. Where does this rank in terms of the biggest games as Ohio State fandom?
For me, you're saying, or just in general?
Your Ohio State fan. Up there, right?
I mean,
especially with the pressure on Ryan Day, like.
I mean, we played a national title game with Ryan Day. Got pummeled by Bama.
Don't get me wrong. That was the biggest game in your fandom. A national championship's the biggest. But I'm asking, like, can this win the bronze medal? Can this, a non-championship game or a non-playoff game? Well, it is a playoff game. I apologize. Like, is this the third biggest one for you? Especially all the stuff around Ryan Day and, like, having to shit or get off the pot here?
But it's weird because, like, he kind of, like, already did that. Like, Tennessee and Oregon were kind of those games. Okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but this one, yeah.
Because the spot we were in after losing to Michigan, if he loses to Tennessee, I legitimately think he's fired. Like, I think they're moving on. No matter the buyout's crazy, all that. I think they would
have no choice.
The entire fan base would have been calling for his head. They kind of already were. That would have put, like, the nail in the coffin. But to play so well against Tennessee, not just beat them, but, like, beat the brakes off them. And then Oregon, the #1 team, like, get your lick back. Not only beat them, but, again, beat the living shit out of them. I think it's already kind of like in the, like, listen, if they go and lose to Texas, people will still be like, what the fuck, Ryan Day? Right. And people will still be calling for his head kind of thing, but he's not going anywhere. It's not even a thought at this point anymore if he's going to go anywhere. It's tough to rank this game specifically because even, like, the Clemson playoff game they won was a huge game.
Yep.
The one they played and got, like, screwed and lost the year that LSU won it all. Like, that was big. The Tennessee one was so big just for, like, the
get the monkey off the back.
Like, you talk about getting off the mat. Yep. That was the get off the mat game. And then Oregon was the, like, oh my God.
Big time pressure.
Oregon was like, we really are the best team in the country game. Like, not even close when we play how we need to.
Yeah, a lot of chips on the table. That was the point I was trying to make.
No, for sure. You know? And Day, he wins the title, he gets it all back. Like, in my opinion, like, listen, like,
that's the final question I was going to ask. When Dave, how are you going to spin this?
Oh, no, but that's such an easy spin zone for me. Like, when you have the belt around your waist, like, he can say whatever he wants. He can say, like, back-to-back national titles. Like, we know we have the belt. Like, he can make his little cute shirts and that'll put it's great. Like, he'll be selling
keep
those
the
shirts
lights on,
along with, like, Ohio State's championship merch. God, like, if that happens. But yeah, I mean, I'm truly, like, not worried about that. Like, that'll be a not, like, I will not be, if Ohio State wins the national title, the least of my concerns.
Yeah, the spin zone is
we lost to Michigan. I'll be like, oh, that little scrimmage you played in November.
It's a little bit like George Costanza and the Yankees, that famous clip when he's teaching him how to bat. And they're like, George, we won the World Series last year. He's like, yeah, in 6 games. Like, you're nitpicking.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like we're still the
still the national champs.
Because like even 2 years ago, like, we pretty much, like, we were a field goal from doing it, basically. Like, we would have beat Georgia. Like, with all respect to TCU, like, that game would have been an absolute rout.
Yeah, exactly.
And even, like, last year, I really think, like, that us and Michigan were the 2 best teams. Like, that game in Michigan, like, that was I think the winner of that game, like, they win. Like, I think we win the national title if we win that game too.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And it's annoying for Ohio State because really, like, in this run, like, we've had a few teams that I really think were the best team. Like, the year after we won it 15, like, that next year, like, Zeke's last year and all those guys last year, that team that lost to Michigan State in the monsoon and then didn't make the playoff, like, that team I think was the best team in the country too.
Yeah, if I was one of those kids, any of these
they called it a rough draw where, like, Michigan State, they just got to play in the Big Ten tournament, or excuse me, Big Ten championship, and Ohio State just kind of got left out. Like, that's another year where, like, if this was, like, they would have been, like, the 5 seed, and I think they would have had a very good chance.
If I was one of these kids in the last 20 years, I almost would rather that they never expanded it and kept it at 4, or kept even the kids going backwards when it was 2, keep it at 2 to be like, damn, because now you look at it and you're like, we could have made that run. You know what I mean? Like, national, like, the ifs and buts.
It'd be wild if we win this year. Like, we would have won both first-year playoff expansion championships.
Right.
We won the first year of the 4-year, and we pull it off this year. We win the first of the 12 team.
So, yeah, I mean, that's it. It's a big one for you. Good luck is the best I could say. That's Healthy Debate. We'll catch you next week.